What's up, guys? We are back for another Marvel Legends review, digging back into that X-Men Caliban wave of figures, taking a look at one that I'm personally very interested in because I just have a fondness for this particular character. So today we're taking a look at Blink. She comes in the standard Legends packaging. We've got her there in the window. We've got the X-Men logo down there on the bottom. We've got artwork on the side. We've got artwork on the back of her jumping through one of her portals. Bit of a write-up, and then we've got that wave lineup as well as the Build-A-Figure down there. So let's do it. Let's pull her out and take a look. And here she is out of the package, our Blink figure. This is one that I really wanted, and I'm not sure if she's going to be high on a lot of folks' list, but just from my comic reading past, this figure does a lot for me. Just her presence in the Exiles comic book was a big thing for me back in the early 2000s, and I absolutely love this character, and she just has a cool power set too. So there's a lot to like about this character, and hopefully it translates pretty well into figure form. So let's take a look at how she moves around. It's a female figure in Marvel Legends, so we already know there's going to be some hindrances. And frankly, after going through the Overwatch figures, it makes me want some updated female bodies for this line because we know Hasbro can do it now. But that's neither here nor there. For now, I suppose. So the head can go back, but really not very far because she has a full head of hair and it hits her shoulders right away. She can look down, and then you can rotate side to side. Arms go out, they rotate. You've got a rotating single jointed elbow, so it gets you better than 90 though, which isn't bad. Of course, double would be great. We've got a hinge and rotation at the wrist. You've got your upper diaphragm. That's hard to say right now for some reason. Upper diaphragm swivel, and then you can bend her back and forth, side to side. Of course, there is no crunch or waist twist here. We've got legs that kick out, so about that far. Kick forward, kick back, not much. She pretty much hits her butt right away. And then you've got thigh cut, you've got your double jointed knees, and then we've got rocker and hinge down at those ankles. So she moves pretty much as well as you would expect any female Marvel Legends figure to move, and she's okay. Obviously, I would prefer more. I think everybody would prefer more at this point, and she is a very agile character, so she could use more, but I have been able to get her into some decent enough poses with what we have here. Now, my main interest for this figure mostly lie in the looks. She's pretty basic, so there's not a whole lot to really mess up here, and I think Hasbro's done a pretty solid job. I mean, she's mostly just wearing a bathing suit with some boots, and she's got a sash around her waist. Most of the sculpting work is done from the neck up, but as far as the body goes, it's pretty much just a standard blank female body with a few embellishments. So we've got some paint here. There's not much. You've got some, obviously we have two different colors. So we've got the green and we've got the kind of purpley pink color. And for the most part, it's okay. Lines are fuzzy, but they're not jagged or bad in any way. It's exactly what you would expect. I think the body choice for her is pretty good in terms of scale and size, and she's a pretty small, petite frame, so it works here. And then you've got the floating piece for the sash with a very stylized piece of fabric down here. I wish it was a little bit less stylized just because it kind of precludes itself to being in a specific pose, but it hangs well enough and it fits the outline of the suit that they gave her. And then she's got a matching collar up here as well, which is okay. It's a free-floating piece as well, but the paint on it is pretty haphazard. The little silver balls are kind of hit or miss, really. And then you've got the boot cuffs down here, which are, as usual, a floating piece, and then you've got just the painted boot feet things down here. So, you know, she looks good enough. It's a pretty basic figure. There's not a whole lot to really screw up, and if I had one complaint, it's that the collar has some bad paint apps on it, but otherwise the body is exactly what I was expecting to get. The head sculpt, though, I think is pretty rock solid. I really like everything they did with her from the neck up. You've got a really strong face sculpt to begin with, a really strong head sculpt. We've got the kind of windswept hair, which really kind of goes along with the style pose on her sash, so it shows that she's kind of in motion. And if there's one thing that Blink is doing is that she's constantly moving or, you know, jumping in and out of portals, things like that. So it would kind of dictate the flow of her hair and her clothing. So I think it works. It's just, you it doesn't help with posing sometimes. But you've got a pretty solid head sculpt here. The hair is nicely done. There's not a whole lot of paint to talk about up there, but the hair is nicely done. There's a little bit more paint than normal on the face. You've got the kind of tattoos, the markings. You've got those pupilless eyes, which are really nicely done. And I've said it before, I like pupilless eyes, especially when it dictates the character, and it definitely works here. You've got those nice yellow eyes, and then you've got the red accents, and the face just looks like her. It really looks like she jumped out of the comic book for me. I have a pretty strong image of what she should look like in my head, and this figure comes across really well. Now, as far as accessories goes, Blink definitely does have a decent amount when it comes to plastic. So for those that maybe aren't aware, her power set involves portals and teleporting, and she can also generate shards as well. So we've kind of got, basically those in plastic form here. So you've got her shards, which I've got in her hands, and they're just kind of exactly what you might think. They kind of look like crystal daggers almost, and they're done up in kind of a gummy pink plastic. It looks like bubble gum, honestly. That's what it looks like. It looks like bubble gum, but they work really well. They have a nice sculpt to them. They very much fit the idea behind the character. And then you've got her portal down here, which this thing takes a little bit more doing, because you really have to be able to place it correctly or set the scene with it correctly, or maybe using a stand of some kind to show her jumping out of it, because she really isn't going to be just sort of standing in there. She's going to be doing something. So, this is a terrible pose that I've got her in, as she's sort of kind of like sliding out of it almost. But you can see, we'll set her down. So we've got this big, basically chewed up bubblegum circle here. And it's that kind of metallic, marbly plastic. But I really like it. The idea of them giving this to us works really nicely for me. And it's one of the base things for her power set. So I'm glad they gave us some sort of representation for it. Plenty of people out there that are much better at doing stuff with action figure photography and making dials will have a better way to use this than I do, but I'm glad they gave it to us. And just the inclusion of 2 shards, it's a complete package for her. This is really everything she needs. And it looks great too. I like this kind of plastic, whether it looks like bubble gum or not. So outside of the fact that Blink could definitely use a more updated female body, and which female couldn't really, I really like this figure. I do have a fondness for the character, so maybe I'm a little biased in that regard, but there's really nothing wrong with this figure either. She is pretty par for the course when it comes to Marvel Legends females, but I think the paint apps are nicely done, the head sculpt is nicely done. She comes with some pretty crazy accessories that, may or may not work for everybody, but the shards are a must-have, and then folks that really get into taking photography or making dios will make great use of that portal, I'm sure, because it's quintessential to her power set, and I'm just glad they gave it to us. That's one thing that they could have easily left out of the box, but they decided to go for it and give us that big hunk of plastic anyway. So I think she's a pretty rounded out package, all things considered, and a must-have for really deep Marvel Legends X-Men collectors. So that's going to do it for this look at the Marvel Legends Blink figure from Hasbro. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and until next time.